Yeah.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Pleasant Township Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 1:06 p.m. Please note this meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. I will now do a roll call of those in attendance, starting on my left.
Lily. Simon.
Lily.
Andy Day.
And myself, Russell Hurst. Now take a moment of reflection. Thank you. And before we commence with the agenda, we'll just make a brief note of our township's land acknowledgement. We recognize that when the first Euro-Canadian settlers arrived in what is now Pleasant Township, the Anishinaabe ancestors of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation had long established hunt camps in the area. Through written and verbal accounts, we understand that the Anishinaabe interacted with the settlers in a friendly and cooperative manner. It is acknowledged that the development of the township encroached upon their traditional way of life, resulting in their displacement. We'll now transition to the confirmation of the agenda, which was previously circulated. Are there any amendments to the agenda any committee members would like to identify? Okay, if none, I'll ask Laura to read the resolution.
That the Heritage Advisory Committee approves on October 23, 2023 agenda as circulated.
We have a mover. Lily, seconder Andy, all in support, carried. The next agenda item is disclosure of conflicts of interest. Are there any disclosures of conflict of interests on particular agenda today that any committee member would like to identify? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the next agenda item. Correspondence. There's one item of correspondence. It's the review of the radio communication tower application at the address 7424 Wellington Road 24. Are there any comments that any committee members have before we transition it to staff to provide us an update?
Did you say 24 or 34?
Oh, is it 34? I thought it was 34. You're correct.
Yeah.
Correct me, Andy.
Oh,
Sorry, I
24.
misspoke there.
24.
it's 24.
Is it 24? On the map, it's got 34.
There it's got 24.
No, 7424 Wellington Road 34.
Never mind.
Right.
Yeah, we're good. Good
Okay.
catch, Andy. So just for technical work, the address, we'll just restate it. 7424 Wellington Road 34 for accuracy. Still hearing no comments. I think we're ready for staff update. Where are you, Courtney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members and staff. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I heard a little bit of feedback there, so as long as it's okay on your end.
It does sound a little bit echoey here, Courtney. Just give us a sec here.
At 35 out of 100. Might be lower. How about now, Courtney?
Let me test it. I think that's a lot better. Yep, I don't hear any feedback.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Fire away.
thank you. So through you, Mr. Chair, I can provide as much or as little information as the committee needs. I might just start with just some high level information and then maybe, if it's all right with you, just open it up to questions. So this is a radio communications tower proposal that is in front of the committee today for comment. So the authority on radio communications towers is the federal government. So the township in this case is a commenting body. We issue our comments to council in this case for consideration, and then council will review the committee's comments, staff's feedback, any public feedback that we get in order for council to determine whether they want to make a comment of concurrence, meaning they're okay with the tower proposal to the federal government, or a comment of non-concurrence, and that non-concurrence could be conditional. There's a number of things that we could do just dependent on the feedback that is received on the specific application. So this application is in front of the Heritage Committee as it is adjacent. The property where the tower is being proposed is adjacent to a property that has a heritage structure on it. The structure right now is has listed status. And so we are seeking feedback from the committee just in relation to the location of the tower, sort of the aesthetics of the tower, and how that may or may not impact the heritage property that's adjacent. So I did just want to, and the committee may have already reviewed this information, but I did just want to show an image from the road of the heritage property just to give some context, as well as just share how we have the property listed on our register. So through Mr. Chair, if it's all right, I'll just share my screen briefly.
Sounds good.
So if you can just see my screen, this is just from Google Maps. I'm just sort of on Street View here. So this is on Brock Road. The property in question is 8 Brock Road. So you can see it's a commercial building. That's the image of the property. I believe it's fairly recent. I think it looks like it's from August 2023. So it should be a recent image of the property. And I'll just flip to, if you can still see my screen, just the Heritage Register. So it may be a little small to read, but 8 Brock Road North in Aberfoyle is the property in question. It received its plaque in the year 2000. So at the same time that we sort of recognized that 100 or so properties. So the description has it as Aberfoyle Blacksmith and Wagon Shop, 1860, significant stone 2-story industrial building, probably built by John Black or Alan McIntyre, historically associated with wagon and carriage making, blacksmithing, industry in Puslinch and community of Aberfoyle. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions on the default protocol that we're following in terms of processing this application, and happy to look at the report as you need, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Courtney. Maybe before we open it up to any questions for the committee, had there been any feedback received from the heritage, the owners of the heritage property in question in regards to the any potential impacts of this tower being installed?
So not at this time. The notice did just go out a week or so ago. It was circulated just through regular mail. So they may still take the opportunity to comment. I believe it's open until November the 7th is the commenting period.
Okay, thank you. And ultimately that would be part of any package that would go to council at that point with any, I guess it'd be captured as part of public comments received through the notice. Okay. Good. I guess I'll open it up to any committee members. Do you have any questions for Courtney or staff on this particular item?
May I ask her directly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Courtney. Just a little bit more curious about how this works. So it's a shared tower, not quite sure what that means, and then also the protocol that you mentioned that we just comment to the council who's also going to just comment. Thank you.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, to the first question, Shared Tower is actually the name of the proponent. So that's the company that owns the tower. From there, they typically are looking for what's called an anchor tenant. So that could be Rogers or Bell or any of those sort of bigger service providers that would lease out either all of the tower's capacity or a portion of the tower's capacity. But the name Shared Tower is simply just the company name that will own the infrastructure.
Well, so the landowner or the property owner of the land that it's going to be built on, are they involved with this as well?
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, they would enter into a lease agreement with the proponent. So in this case, Shared Tower. And so those agreements are confidential. Usually there is compensation involved with leasing out the land.
That's good. Those are good questions.
I've never been involved with the tower, so I know there's other cell towers. I know often the homeowner will put the tower up and then they lease it out so it can be used by more than one company like Bell. So that would, in that case, it would minimize these requests that would come up to us just in general to the township, right? But so is there an alternate site or is this kind of, because 5G towers do require 5G requires more towers, so this probably isn't the only time we're going to come up with this. So how many more towers are we going to be looking at? It impacts probably all of the heritage buildings if they go up in a certain area.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'll try my best to answer those questions. A lot of them are more technical. Council did make the request of the proponent Shared Tower when they were before council in late September to demonstrate that they had sort of exhausted their search for locations for the tower. So we did hear feedback from the proponent that they had done that search. I guess it's relies on a few components. There has to be willingness from the landowner to host the tower. So that's a big component of finding a location. And then there is their technical part of their search area. So wherever that sort of radius is that they're looking for the tower to be able to service and to work with the other towers in the area. And then again, the willingness of the landowner. So I think it's what we heard from the proponent is that they did do an exhaustive search, and this is the property where they sort of found the willingness and the right location from their technical perspective.
Anything else?
Well, the other side of how the council then, how does it work on the second part of the question?
Okay,
Did
so
you
this,
do that part? Just in
through
terms
Mr.
of
Chair, I think I did. So because the authority for issuing approval is the federal government, the township and council specifically is a commenting body. So council does not have authority to approve or deny sites. That approval is with the federal government. We are a commenting body. So we're going through that process right now where we're collecting all the feedback, including from the Heritage Committee. And we'll be providing that information to council, which will then go into a report that will go to the federal government. And that report will either be in recommendation of concurrence. So saying, you know, the host municipality is in general agreeing with the process that's been undertaken by the proponent and the site location, or non-concurrence, meaning perhaps we heard a lot of objection to the site. There could be a number of reasons why council does not give concurrence. And so again, the federal government could take that information and approve the site anyways. So that's why we are just being mindful that we're a commenting body, not the approval authority.
Thanks, Courtney. One more follow-up on that. Does that apply to all similar towers or is this a particular type? Okay.
All radio communication towers are federally regulated and approved.
Okay, this one looked over, what was this one called, the Boop Tower or something? Okay.
You track, do you have any questions just while Lily's going through that, Andy, at all?
No, no, please.
I thought there was a name for this type of tower, so I'm not sure when they put one up versus the other kind, but.
Yeah, I'm not
So,
sure.
through Mr. Chair, I think this is a monopole tower, I think is how they, and it's just, if the picture of the tower, it sort of looks like a solid structure tower. It's about 35 meters in height, so, monopole. So a flush mount monopole tower is sort of what we're looking at. I believe it's on page 17 or 11 of the council agenda. Again, it could look different than another type of tower construction. So we wanted to include that for the committee's information because again, the aesthetics of the tower is a factor, particularly when it's so close to a heritage structure.
Good. I can't say that I have any specific questions. I think probably I would look for any feedback that's received from the community consultation. I think from our standpoint, in regards to the heritage attributes, I think currently, my thinking is that it's not negatively impacting that particular building in question. But I guess we would await any public consultation if any's received from the homeowner or landowner, I guess in this case, because it's a commercial property.
That's commercial property? Oh, if that's the tower, they should have, okay.
Yeah.
So through Mr. Chair, if I might just add another comment. The last 2 pages of the report just identify an alternative location for the tower. So it's being proposed to be sort of in between 2 residential buildings, about 50 meters away from the heritage structure, almost directly behind it. So if you were on Brock Road looking at this heritage structure, you're likely going to see the top of the tower sort of behind it just to the south. The alternative location that had been proposed by the proponent was to be in a parking lot. It's actually on a separate property owned by the same landowner in between 2 commercial buildings. And so from a staff perspective, as it relates to the heritage structure, there may be benefit in having that location be mentioned as a preferred spot, simply because when you're looking at that heritage structure, you're not going to have the sight line of the tower directly behind it if it was moved. It's just some thoughts that staff are likely going to put in our comments to council, both in relation to the sensitive land uses and the residential that are existing there, but also potentially in relation to the heritage property.
Thanks, Courtney. Maybe ask committee members, would there be a degree of support from the Heritage Committee to articulate the recommendation that Courtney had just noted?
Andy?
Knowing that there is a potential alternative that we can make a recommendation, all things being equal, I guess, further distance from a heritage property may be desirable. Ultimately, as Courtney noted, these are recommendations that can come. They're not decisions ultimately. Any discussion on that?
I would have to agree. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, no, I agree as well.
Okay.
From the picture that Courtney put up, I noticed that there was a bit of land to the left of the heritage site. So yes, the tower would definitely be visible in the Google Maps page that you would take the picture of the heritage building from.
So through you, Mr. Chair, even in this picture, if you can see my cursor, if you were on Brock Road in front of the building, the proposed site right now is in between these 2 residential buildings here. So again, the sight lines are a 35-meter tower. You're likely going to see the top of it from Brock Road. Versus if you move it in between these commercial buildings here, again, your sight lines, you're still going to see it from Brock Road, but it's not necessarily in the same viewpoint as our heritage structure here. And it's, again, in with structures that might be more aligned, just given that this is a, this whole corner here is being used for commercial operations.
The homeowners that are near there would be happier with it there too.
And just,
I think those are good comments. Maybe if I can surmise a recommendation out of here is, not sure if we've identified it. We'll say site B, if that's for our recording purposes. Recommendation from the Heritage Committee would be site B would be a preferred location, and given the proximity of site A to an existing heritage property. That made any sense in terms of how we articulated that.
There's the second one in the documentation,
Page 13, the last page.
one that's 68 meters away.
Yeah. If you have that crafted up to some degree, can I just ask you to speak that, and we'll look for somebody to make a motion
Yeah.
and second it.
The resolution I have here is that the review of the radio communications tower application for 7424 Wellington Road 34 in Plesslunch be received for information, and that the Heritage Advisory Committee provides the following comments for council's consideration. That the Heritage Advisory Committee supports the alternate location of the proposed radio communications tower at 7426 Wellington Road 34 due to 7424 Wellington Road 34's location to the heritage property. Is that like somewhat?
There is a different address and it's 7426.
So site B, I think is 7426.
Okay. I'm not sure what they call that. Perfect.
Discussion on that recommendation? Hearing none, so everybody want to make a motion to support that, Lily? Second by Andy, all in support? Carried, so I think we're okay on that one. Did you get it captured the way you're happy with? Is there any other business arising for Heritage Committee to address today that hasn't been identified previously?
The meeting, the Ottawa.
The National
The
National Conference.
It's starting this Thursday or Friday. Would be, I mean, if anybody wants to attend, I am registered, so when I get my schedule, I can come here for the Friday. I don't know if that one is available or something. Just if anybody else wants to, if no one wants to, I'll just sit at home.
Can we just maybe ask staff to shoot around a quick email to all the committee members, just letting them know of that opportunity? That's okay. Thanks, thank you for bringing that up. Maybe one other request. I thought the discussion that you shared, based on the London meeting, one of the last committee meetings was well received. So my ask would be doesn't need to be nearly as detailed as the one you did, which was, it certainly exceeded my expectations, but if there's any just observations that you can share at a subsequent committee meeting, I think that would be of good value for
Thank you.
everybody.
I do have one comment on that right now. It appears that this conference isn't quite as perhaps applicable to our committee, just because it's federal, so it's national, it's more on a planning state is what I found. It was a little harder to choose the sessions to attend, so I have a feeling I won't be able to be more detailed. But yeah, I'll note that.
And that's fair. I think it's a learning opportunity
Sure.
for the committee as to which conferences and learning opportunities we take advantage of. But I think That's not necessarily a bad observation. It's just like, here's what's applicable and here's
Right.
what's not, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, this is good. Anything else before we look to adjourn?
Did you get the
Any-
motion on that? Yeah, we did.
I think we can do that.
Gotta
Talk
do
that
that
as an
right.
action item.
Mhm.
All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Andy? Unless you wanna hang in here. There we go, all in support, carried. All this meeting adjourned at 1:31 PM.